So now in this lecture, let's actually go ahead and see how we can display the price of the items over here and finally calculate the total of the items or the total cost of your order by adding the costs of these multiple products, including their quantity as well. So now the very first thing which you need to do here is that you need to go ahead and you first need a way to actually store these values into the local storage. So right now what we are doing is that we are only storing the item ID and the quantity inside the local storage. So now we also need a way to actually store these values in the local storage as well. So how exactly can you go ahead and extract these values and store them in the local storage? So the very first thing which you need to do is that in order to get the values of the respective items, you need to associate a product ID with these prices right here. So if you switch back to the code and if you go to the index.html page, as you can see, we have associated a product ID with each and every button over here. So for example, with the add to cart button right over here, we have associated a product ID. And now we actually want to do the same thing with the product price as well. So as you can see, we have this product price right here. And what we wish to do is that we also wish to associate a unique ID with this product price as well. So in here, as you can see, for the product title, we have actually associated a unique product ID. That is, we have typed in NM and then we have this product ID right here. So let's do the same thing with the product price as well. So I'll type in ID equals and then I'll say something like, let's say price, and then let's get the unique ID by typing in product.id. And now once we have associated a unique ID with the product, now we can actually go ahead and save this particular product price in the local storage. So for that, you actually need to go ahead and go to the logic where we actually store the item ID and the quantity in the local storage. So as you can see right here, we have extracted the quantity of the item. We have also extracted the product ID and we have basically stored them right over here. So as you can see for the quantity, we have saved the quantity at position 0. So now if you actually want to save the price of the product as well, you can simply go ahead and save it at a particular position, which is index position 2. So in order to get the price and add it over here, what I can simply do is that I can type in cart item ID of 2 and get the actual price. So let's do the same thing. So I'll say cart of item ID. So cart of item ID. And we are going to save the price at the position 2. So I'll type in 2 over here. And that's actually going to be equal to. So here, in order to get the price, we will just make use of the ID which we have assigned right now. So if you actually have a look at the price, we will actually use this ID which is price and the product ID. So let's make use of that over here. So let's go back here and I'll say something like document.get element by ID, and then we will actually get the ID which is nothing but price plus it's nothing but the item ID. So I'll type in item ID and then I'll say something like dot inner HTML in order to get the HTML inside of it. Now there's one issue with this approach, that we have used the same approach for the name as well, and it basically works in case of name because we are using a string here. So name of the product is nothing but it's actually a string. And now the issue with price is that price is not a string, but instead it's actually a integer value or a float value. So whenever you go ahead and get this value of price from here, you always need to make sure that you convert this thing into a float. So I'll simply go ahead, cut this thing, and I'll type in pass float, which is actually a method or a function which basically allows us to convert a string into float. So in there I'll paste this code which we have just typed in, and what this will do is that it will get the price of that particular product and it will convert it into a floating point value. Now this actually looks fine. We have got the price value and we have simply stored that price value in here. However, there is one issue with this particular thing. That is, this logic, that is, this particular if block is actually written if the product is already present in the cart. So for example, let's say we have a watch in our cart and we add the same watch again. So in that case, what should happen is that it should not only include the price of the watch, but it should also include the price of the previous watch as well. So that means when I first add an item to the cart, this logic should actually work. But when I add the watch for the second time, what happens in this particular case is that the price does not change. So what we want to do here is that we not only want to get the current price, but we also want to add the previous price if the item was added previously. So in here, instead of just having cart of item ID of 2 equals to this thing, I'll say this equals this plus the new value. So what this means is that, let's say if I add a watch, the value of the price is going to be 100. And now when I add the watch for the second time, what happens is that it takes the first value, which is 100, and then it takes the new value, which is again 100, and it basically adds it to the previous value so that the new value becomes 200. So now what happens is that when I add the same watch for the third time, the value of this thing is already 200, and it's again going to take 100 from here, and now the total value of item actually becomes 300. So this is the way in which we will be storing the price in this particular cart of item ID of 2. So now this works for having multiple elements, but what if you are actually adding the item inside the cart for the very first time? So in that case, what you simply wish to do is that you simply wish to get the value by using this code right here. So I'll simply copy that. And now in here, what we will do is that first of all, I'll create a variable called as price, and I'll simply assign this a value which is the actual value of the product or the actual price of the product. Now once you get this particular price, what you do is that you simply go ahead and add this price up over here along with the quantity and name. So at the index position 0, we have saved the quantity. At index position 1, we have the name. And at index position 2, we actually want to have the price, which is nothing but this thing right here. So once you go ahead and do that, you're pretty much good to go. So now let's simply save the code, and now let's test this code in the console and see if this thing actually works. So first of all, I'll just go ahead, open this thing up, open up the console as well, and let's first clear the cart. So let me just go to console, and I'll say something like local storage dot clear. And now once it's cleared, I'll add this watch here. And I guess I need to clear the local storage and then actually hit refresh. So local storage dot clear and then hit refresh and then actually hit the add to cart button. And as you can see, if I click on this, for some weird reason, it's saying that the value of watch is undefined. So let's see why exactly do we get this particular error. So let's first analyze if the ID is associated with this thing. So if we go ahead and look over here, have a look over here, we have price 1 here for this product. For this price, if we go ahead and inspect, as you can see, we also have 500 over here. And I guess the reason why it's actually showing us an error is because we have this $sign associated with that particular price. So let's actually go ahead and try removing the $sign and see if this thing works out. So what I will do here is that I'll go ahead and get rid of this particular $sign from here and also remove any white spaces which we have. So now once we go ahead and fix that, let's see if this thing works out right now. So let's again go back to the console and let's clear up the local storage. So local storage dot clear. Now let's hit refresh, and now if I click on add to cart, and if I click over here right now, as you can see, now we have the value stored over here, which is 100. So now let me click this button one more time and let's see if the value changes to 200. So that should actually happen. That is, it should take the current value and add in a new value in here. So when I click over here and when I click this, as you can see, the value has now changed to 200. So when I add one more time, let's see what do we get. So as you can see, now the total value becomes 300 for 3 watches. So now let's try the same thing for the bike as well. So I'll click on the bike twice. And now as you can see, the value of 2 bikes is shown to be 600. That means we are now successfully able to actually store the price of items, that is the total price of the items inside the local storage. Now our next job is to go ahead and make use of these values and display these values on the checkout page as well. So right now, as we have those values in the local storage, we just need to go ahead and display those values up over here. So we are going to do that in the upcoming lecture. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.